kom na yentu abasa komu akona bache be mi ha yenfa odom mom na yentu abasa komu se kom na wa ya dia se kom adiesa na monkoda makoso monkari anso odonti yesa ya bari anadri se kom na wa ya dia se kom adiesa na monkoda makoso monkari anso odonti yesa ya bari anadri tutum se yo marapidi on joy away me no back road tutum se yo marapidi on joy away me no back road I can't know what you baby ha you can't jump from side down on your ma your joy is so sad I don't song to see all night. Now you're drinking time to someone mind. I don't fall back crying and sick guy. Everything me and try and do survive. So don't say yo, my rapidity, on joy away, me no back road. So don't say yo, my rapidity. If I was there, what's up, but because I fall, you've been sick. But mano, for one poco on the family. Now see what get it. Stay out there. I said 84 will be a win your original pay on. Me no way into me, so say miss through. I could go here, I just a woody, a banana, and yeah, duro. And I see a futuro, you know, do a yajo. And then you go bonku. Say, me still, I'm a fabu, quite more. Do when they rest the order to check come in a monchimonka. It's a Karama, your Jenny American, the end of not in a home, walk quite fifi. Quite say out there. Booja, say out there. And you booja, say out there. So don't say yo, my rapid.
Later becomes head of NATO's military committee. His face shows the scars of combat.
Please bear in mind, Hitler came to power the very moment radio was invented. And Hitler was using radio in a very clever way. After 1 year, after Hitler became Chancellor of Germany, we had the so-called People's Receiver. This was a small radio. Each family was having this in their kitchen. So the Führer could talk on a daily basis to his people. He was using, for the first time, the media in a very clever way, using radio in an extensive way. So the medium radio, thank God he didn't have television, was a tremendous tool in his hands.
With the country behind him, Hitler vows to reclaim
Yeah. Thank God he didn't have television. You know, this past week I was watching the Ukrainian journalist, the great Ukrainian journalist and interviewer. His name is Dmitry Gordon. I mentioned this on Facebook recently, but he was talking with Yuri Dud, another great interviewer from Russia, about propaganda and television. And he said that if Goebbels had been alive today, he would have shot himself. Because he would have said to himself, why didn't I think of that? And that's going to be basically the topic of tonight, is propaganda, but specifically through Fox News. Dave and I are going to go through a fine-tooth comb on this propaganda machine called Fox News. There are others, but we're going to focus on Fox tonight. And while we have one eye on the fascist Republicans who are now occupying parts of Congress and the Senate, we have to always keep an eye on this media. And with that early note, I'd like to introduce my good friend and co-host who has nothing better to do on Saturday nights and just about any other night. Dave, it's great to see you.
Hey, Brian, how are you? How are you doing? Are in this wonderful, wonderful country we call the United States of America, where anybody can grow up, say they want to see a bullet in the head of, excuse me, their boss, and get elected in the great state of Georgia, and be a congressman. And so far, I don't think Congresswoman Marjorie Greene has done anything. I'm pretty sure if she does get fired, she'll be an anchor for Fox. That would be my guess, but who knows? Let's talk a little bit about the news tonight. I love talking about the news.
Yes, Dave. First of all, oh, good, I can hear you because I'm always worried about audio, folks. So if there's any problem with the audio, you'll tell me. I want to get this countdown off of here. Right. So, see, the problem is, Dave, it's not so much the news, it's the medium carrying the news. We saw that brief intro clip for what happened in Germany with Goebbels, and for that time, that was ingenious, and it essentially created the fervor that was, obvious within the German population.
But that couldn't happen in America, could
never
it,
happen in
Brian?
America.
It could never happen here. I mean, that was a long time ago. In 1930, I mean, maybe it could. What do you think, Brian? Do you think it could happen here?
I think, our viewers should do an experiment. When next time you go to the grocery store and you see a guy with, an American flag on the back of his car, and of course it isn't even a car, it's a Ford F-150. When he's not wearing the mask, tell him he forgot to put his mask on and see what happens. And hopefully you'll have your Joe Biden hat on. You'll see that it is true. It can happen.
Of course, it not only can happen to a certain extent. It did happen. Those of us who care about the country voted in a president, and now our job, I'm echoing Brian, just begins.
We should have the echo off right now. I've got that set up. Thank you, Dave, for telling me that. Yeah, it's this is going to be a major problem tonight. We're going to look through some clips, and then we're going to have some commentary. I know Dave has a lot of notes he wants to share with us.
Yeah. What I want to do, Brian, if we get started, before you share the clips, just get the background out of the way.
Sure.
I think we should.
Why don't we?
Okay. So of course, Fox has always been the, what shall we say, the poor kid on the block, Fox Network, which is different than Fox News, although, they share the same name. So they were together at a time. Fox Network started on October 9th, 1986, which doesn't seem so long ago. And they were also RANs, and they needed to do something to compete with CBS, NBC, and ABC. And if you remember, Brian, the early Fox shows, they were kind of out there. I mean, they were pushing the envelope. Married with Children.
Right.
You had The Simpsons, which came out of the Tracy Ullman show. It was so popular.
Right.
Simpsons' longest running,
Absolutely.
longest running show now. And 10 years later, they said, well, you know what? We're doing better. Let's go get us a news. And so they looked around, and lo and behold, somebody was ready by the name of Keith, which nobody calls him, Rupert Murdoch. We'll go into some more of what he did. He is the man behind much of the disinformation in not only America, but where he got his start, Australia and England. And in 2001, as often happens, he got a great partner in crime, if you will, and that was the one and only Roger Ailes. Roger appointed himself, and Rupert agreed that he would take over the news division. And I find this interesting. Rupert Murdoch obviously is a very shrewd businessman who plays by his own set of rules. Roger Ailes is a fascinating character. You know, died, 3 years ago? Yeah, 3 years, 4 years coming up, 2017. And I want to talk a little bit about him tonight, because you can't really talk about, obviously you can't talk about Fox News without talking about those two. But think about this, Brian. This thing that's now called an extension of the Republican Party, or this thing that's called just a propaganda wing,
Right.
Or a propaganda tool for right-wing fascists. From 2002, when Fox ratings surpassed that of CNN. And there's an interesting story there. I don't know if we'll get to it tonight, but two giant media rivals hated one another. One was extremely liberal, the other extremely conservative. Of course, Murdoch being the conservative, and Ted Turner, the billionaire, being the liberal, very much into the environment and that type of thing. So, it was kind of personal, as these things always get. And it's because Turner had CNN out of Atlanta. And in 2002, thanks in no small part to the leadership of Roger Ailes, Fox News surpassed CNN to be the leading cable news network in America. And it held that position, Brian. So think about how many people they've been able to shape from 2002 until, interesting enough, this year. And after the attack on the Capitol, for the first time, CNN is back in the lead over Fox, and actually MSNBC has now passed Fox on a regular basis. So, but before we feel too badly for Fox, we're still talking about millions of viewers. Although, Brian, I think it'll be interesting tonight. The millions are not as big as you might think. Now, Brian, I'm not real sure. What's your last count of total number of Americans? What are we up to now? Do you know?
I'm just going to go with the ballpark of 350, 360.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know we're over 325 now. And it's kind of surprising how little networks have to be in the lead. But remember, when I was growing up, and you weren't far behind me, there were just 3 networks. I mean, that was
Right.
it. There was ABC, NBC, and CBS. At last count, I did it last night. If you count the Spanish stations on our cable, we're up now. A couple of them are repeats, right? I mean, in terms of a little bit, we're up to over 450 options on the cable, and that's without going to streaming services, which are just unlimited.
You could fish through those all night and you still not find one you like.
Well, on the 450, you don't, and
Right.
but
I get your point. I get your point.
No, so I mean, suddenly, now it's the numbers were massive for Cronkite, but there's still going to be somebody in the lead, and it's been Fox. And this is a last statistic I'd like to share. In 2020, Fox averaged 3.6 million viewers from 8 to 11, and that was number one. Now, remember, Fox, and we'll talk about that later. They really have 3 time slots if you will. There's the morning, which is devoted to Fox and Friends, and two fools and a good-looking woman. That's been the formula since Fox and Friends debuted years ago. Then the afternoon, they just kind of play around with some things, and then they come out full tilt boogie at night with their shows rivaling, trying to rival CNN, trying to rival MSNBC. And of course, the other two people, or four people I think we need to focus on tonight if we talk about Fox, of course, Murdoch, of course, Ailes. But the two giants that are remaining, Rupert is, 89? He's 89, so he doesn't have too much longer. But the two most fearful factors now at Fox, one is named Sean Hannity, the other's named Tucker Carlson. So I said Fox,
and we'll have a clip of him tonight too.
3.6 million viewers from 8 to 11. Now, Hannity had 4.4 million viewers. So he pulled up that average, right? He is the highest rated cable figure, newsman. Of course, using the term newsman for him is certainly a disservice to the word newsman. And then his little buddy there, they hate one another, by the way, because there's such competition. Tucker Carlson. Tucker comes in with 4.37 million.
And let's put a little
think about that
asterisk, and I think that's important. Of course, they have the big numbers, and I've always said this though, that up until I guess January 6th, they really had no competition for the conservative market.
True.
So those numbers were always going to look big because you remember you've got time slots on MSNBC and CNN where you have someone like Lawrence O'Donnell on, then you have Chris Cuomo, or maybe it was Rachel, whatever it is. They have to split it. But if you put those together, you would see the reality of the country. But you make a good point, because you wonder how any of these guys could get it. Now I wonder, and this will tie into what you have to say. I do have several clips, and we'll put these clips on as time goes through the show, because we do want to have commentary. We just don't want to throw clips at you folks. So
it all depends. Are they now, if we're going to follow Fox News, we have to do three things, Brian, these clips. There has to be lies, right?
Well, this one's actually, here's I think, which I want to prep you for this one, Dave, and this is everybody. Most of these are Fox News clips, but this one actually isn't. This is a CNN clip. Now, Dave, from music, this is like unwritten rule. If you're a good musician or whatever, you're a famous musician, if you're a good guitarist, like if you're an Eddie Van Halen, there's an unwritten rule that you don't cut another person who's a very good guitarist or musician. Right. It's like one of these laws that's not written, but we all know we don't do it. And for many, many years, you would never see that happen between NBC, ABC, and CBS.
Right.
But now, I think CNN's thrown in the. I don't want to say thrown in the towels, because it's coming the way. They just basically they see there's something really going, and they've treaded on it lightly. But I'm going to show you this clip. The first 20 seconds may not be that great, but as you go along, you're going to see. This is Brian Stelter. So let me
hold on a minute. Just let me say something to our people tonight. I got Brian's book right in front of me, so I'm going to
Johnny on the
read
spot.
a little bit from. No, I've been doing some research, actually, believe it or not. Normally I wing this thing, but this is an issue, Brian, that we'll probably be returning to again and again and again and again.
All right, this is Brian Stelter. I want to make sure I've looped back. Okay, I have this on. It is going to be around 3 minutes, folks, but I think it's that important that we watch, because, again, you're starting to see the cut, and I think there's a lot more behind the scenes, and Dave, you'll comment after this, because I think I know where you're going to go with this. Okay, everybody, we'll check it out.
To recognize how Fox and Facebook and QAnon fantasies and all of that has caused separate realities in the United States. He said in his inaugural address that he understands many of his fellow Americans view the future with fear and trepidation. And again, that's partly because of all the nonsense that's heard every night in prime time over there. But then Biden said this.
I promise you I get it. But the answer is not to turn inward, to retreat into competing factions, distrusting those who don't look like you, or worship the way you do, or don't get their news from the same sources you do. We must end this uncivil war that pits red against blue.
His reference to news sources is telling there. He insisted that politics doesn't need to be a raging fire, but that fire is very profitable. And we are seeing Rupert Murdoch's media empire just doubling and tripling down on the fire, on the arson. This week there were layoffs at Fox News, layoffs on the news side. Journalists were laid off. At the same time, opinion programs took up even more space on the schedule. A Fox staff are telling the Daily Beast there's a concerted effort to get rid of real journalists. But we don't need anonymous sources to tell us that. We can see it on the air. Listen to how stars on Fox and Newsmax have been describing the new administration, beginning with Greg Kelly saying he is not wishing Biden well at all.
I wish Joe Biden no success.
Biden's hollow calls for unity are both laughable and completely disingenuous. Total and complete BS.
You thought you voted for a moderate? You got a radical. Here we go.
The weak, the frail, the cognitively struggling Biden, he's attempting to ram his party's radical socialist agenda right down America's throats.
This is a clown car of hypocrisy.
A foreigners first agenda that is sure to usher in economic Armageddon.
What self-indulgent, self-righteous goofballs they are.
Oh, hey, you said it, Laura. Did you catch how Hannity described Biden there? He's weak, he's frail, but he's also ramming things down your throat. It's violent and sexual and pathetic all at the same time. And when those attacks are not enough, and I want to be clear, that is a 24/7 narrative on multiple channels. Every day, every hour. These channels are more anti-Democrat than they are pro-Trump. And the Biden bashing has been turned up to 11 and 12 and 13. So has the media bashing, by the way. Take a look at just some of the banners from Fox's air in the past few days. Fox, a huge member of the national news media, pretending like it's not a member of the media at all, claiming that the media is out to praise Biden, fawn over Biden, he's the media's messiah. Every hour, every day, that's the narrative. And it's going to be like this for the next 4 years. So Biden can talk about politics not needing to be a raging fire, that the fire doesn't have to be raging. But it is. It is today, and it was yesterday, and it will be tomorrow on these shows that millions of people watch. Unity is impossible, okay? The United States is living in this there's parallel universes within the United States. Unity is not feasible. It's just not. But can the temperature be lowered just 2 or 3 degrees? Wouldn't that help? Isn't that possible?
Let me get that off of there. All right, Dave. Okay, Dave. Need your commentary on that.
A couple of things. Let me respond, as we all do, to what we saw visually or that. I liked when Mr. Hannity, and I use the Mr. term loosely with Sean Hannity, said, going to ram it. I'm not a violent person by nature, but I think my favorite TV show was if somebody rammed a 2x4 with nails on it up his anus. That would be a nice ramming, I think. Of course, also, my favorite Nazi, and he is my favorite Nazi in the world, Sebastian Gorka. He's always hanging around somewhere, and he is a neo-Nazi, And some of my finest moments that I enjoyed the most was when he was affiliated with the Heritage Foundation, the Donald Trump think tank. Literally, that's where he got a lot of his people from. Most conservative organization, Tea Party. Down here. A couple of times, Mr. Gorka and I were able to exchange pleasantries on his turf. I wasn't real popular there, and that was fine. But I just had this thing about Nazis, whether they're neo or old or whatever. All right, so let's look at, like I said, I'm going to get back to Mr. Stelter. But Brian, I don't know him that well. I'm going to call him Brian for that. He's right on the money. He's right on the money continually. He is probably the most knowledgeable person in America today about television news. I don't think there's anybody even close. And he doesn't really have an axe to grind. I mean, yes, he's on, he just started as independent. He was a kid. And it's really interesting how he started.
Right.
Or like we're doing. He actually had, before there was this, he was doing, some breaking in the internet, just, some chat rooms and things. that he started with, and he comes out. Now, what he said is so true. And it applies to our show, Brian. You know, you and I jumped on, well, I'm sorry, you started the show, all credit. I mean, I'm not, you know, all credit goes to you. And then I jumped in and tried to mess it up. And despite that, it still seems to be successful. But the idea of divided we stand, and we're not going to go into greatly tonight. But let's just say this. I'm an optimist by nature. I think that it would be wonderful if we had the hippie ideal from the 60s, you know, love and peace and happiness. I'm echoing Brian. But the idea is that it's not going to happen, kids. It's just not. And the reason it's not, and Brian, you kind of alluded to that earlier, it's not just that Fox News is out there, but if they're going to be centrist compared perhaps to something like OAN, and Newsmax is now to the right of them. And I'm going to guess that within a year, there'll be a QAnon full time. Probably start with radio. I mean, it might already be. The concern has Facebook things. And so where does that leave us? It doesn't leave us much. It's veg for now. And the reason for that is a couple, and we'll talk about that tonight. But certainly, I don't know if you caught the opening. That's kind of, we said that beginning on the 6th of January, now in January, the ratings are going down. But that's a temporary blip. It happens all the time.
Dave, can I ask you this? I mean, because we've had the discussion about the far left, and we've seen a lot of people on the far left who, even to this day, I mean, you see what's going on. Was it in Portland or Seattle where they're still having these attacks, and they're attacking Biden. And I'm wondering, Dave, would you buy into the idea that perhaps these people who obviously are on the far left may actually just be watching Fox News and they actually buy into the idea of what Biden is, or am I crazy?
No, you are crazy on that one. I'm just speculating. Okay, my personal thing is there's right and there's left, and left is right morally, and the right is wrong. That's just the way I look at the world. Okay, it's just if I'm wrong, so be it. Now, not only that, HLS, you're still my main man there, because not only that, if you don't watch the little girls dancing, those TikTok videos are a kind of pornography for old men. If everybody's over 21. Now, getting back to your friends on the left, Brian. No, what they want. Okay.
But where are they getting this information? For example, I got to say this. Okay, I'm not going to mention the name of the channel. Okay, but I've always kind of been at odds with the channel, and this person said, she said,
"Go ahead.
You know, I've heard all this stuff. You know, I saw Giuliani," and she said, and I know that some of that stuff is true. It's Giuliani saying when they had Giuliani and that woman Cerrone.
Yeah.
She literally said a lot of what he said is true. We know that. First of all, she just made the comment. We know that a lot of this is true.
You got me confused there. She is this person on this channel, not Cerrone.
No, not Cerrone at all. But
somebody
the commentary was about the testimony with Melissa Cerrone and Rudy Giuliani. And when I heard that, I'm thinking, you know, is that person hook, line, and sinkered by Fox News? Are they actually listening to Giuliani and they're on the left and they're saying, you know, I like that booger sandwich. It tastes good. You know, I mean, what?
Brian, my take on it for what it's worth is this. There are radicals on the left. There have always been. Okay, there's always been radicals on the left. And a radical sometimes is the person who you disagree with, you know, kind of thing. I'm not talking about that. And I really think probably, you know, I don't think they dislike Joe Biden personally, the left. I really think they look at him as an anachronism, as something from the past. And they're worried that if we don't do something immediately about the environment, if we don't do something immediately about racism, if we don't do something immediately about income or economic inequality, that things are going to happen. And so I think they don't really. They just don't think Biden's message of unity will fly.
Right,
Well,
but I want to get back to this, though. I mean, I know what you're saying. You're right. I mean, look.
I don't think there's any. I mean, look. I just want to say this. I don't think there's any kind. And you weren't saying collusion, but I don't think they're watching Fox News. I don't think they're watching MSNBC News. I think they're looking at the world.
Right, but if they don't. But I know they don't trust. Look, because this I do know a lot. They don't trust MSNBC. They think they're bought out, and they don't trust CNN. And you know, look, that we can't say that either one of them is perfect, but they're pretty damn good, and they're certainly great compared to Fox.
Well,
so it bothers me that when somebody says, I don't believe MSNBC at all, Rachel Maddow is bought off, and then I hear, I think what Giuliani's saying is a lot of it's true, then I'm kind of thinking, where are they getting that? Where are they getting? Because they have to see, first of all, they have to see Giuliani in the first place.
Well, here's the thing,
right?
Look, let's get back to. First of all, I'm going to make a charge tonight that Americans, any American whose sole source of news is just television, is a fool. Is a fool. Okay, I don't care if you watch all this, whatever. Television news has a reason for its existence, and it's not news. It's entertainment, okay? And it's making money. And news has nothing, facts, truth on all sides were never that way. It's also extremely subjective, Brian. If you have an hour
right,
show,
but it's also subjective, it's also suggestive, because don't forget, you have the visual element. There's like visual marketing involved in it.
Okay, here's what Rupert Murdoch said. Let me do a quote from my buddy here, Rupert. When he took over he started in Australia, right? So we're talking about Fox. He starts in Australia. His dad was really a great journalist. He was a good journalist. He took over his little small paper and it was driven. So when he finally gets to England and ends up taking over the Sun and the Times, this was what he told the managing editor that he wanted. He said, quote, "I want a tearaway paper with lots of tits in it. And sex sells."
Do you want to address this from Veg at all?
Yes.
Because we wouldn't be time.
And that's fine. And that's fine, Veg. Here's the thing. My question becomes this. All right. If you're not going to trust MSNBC, fine. That's fine. If you're not going to trust CNN, that's fine. I certainly don't trust Fox.
Wasn't this more of an omission than a manipulation?
Well, no, here's the thing, though. It doesn't matter. You're not going to convince somebody. Look, the truth is that Bernie Sanders couldn't get elected in the Democratic Party because Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat. Okay? Bernie Sanders is what we need more of. He's an independent. All right? He caucuses with the Democrats. He and Senator King are not Democrats. They caucus with him. And Bernie had a message and it resonated. You want two people that were close? I mean, in certain areas, Bernie and Trump, completely different, but both playing to populist ideas, right? So Bernie was never going to get it. So people look at it. Now, I don't know if we'd be having this argument or not argument. I don't even know if we're having this discussion if Hillary had won. But she didn't. And so now there's still people that believe Bernie would have beaten Trump. I don't think he could have. I really don't.
Let's just say that Trump. We don't know. We just don't know.
Well, you don't know, but I mean, you're going to say so. If Bernie,
I personally think he wouldn't. Looking back now, because the races were tight, and we had to get some Republicans who were going to jump over into the Democratic field, and a lot of them would just see Bernie as you're looking at.
Here's the worst. You started the show tonight with Adolf Hitler. Okay.
And really Goebbels, but yes, Hitler. He said Hitler, so you've got it right. But I wanted to really say that Goebbels was the man. He's the Murdoch.
I'm saying the clip was Adolf Hitler.
Right.
Okay. Now, old cliche, but true. Give the devil his due. Hitler, with help from others, was a master manipulator. HLS, I'll tell you what. Here's what we got. If you can invent a time machine where we can go back in time and we can create an alternate reality, I'll put up $500 that Trump will beat Bernie, and you could put up $500 he won't. And you are lucky anybody's lucky to be in Canada right now or Australia, where my grandchildren are. But the idea of it is, I mean, it's just speculation. Now already, you see,
what Human's saying that at least right now, he said he thinks he win both. At least that's what I think you're saying. You're thinking he win both elections. I wouldn't agree with that, but
no, and that's fine. See, this is what we're failing to do right now.
That's all.
This is what we're failing to do, Brian, as people. Now, I don't really care what anyone else thinks in the sense that I need to convince them that I'm right. Right? I just want to convince myself that it's right. So it's meaningless to really discuss Bernie Sanders. I will say my take on it. Bernie Sanders will be more significant in the Senate than he would be as president. That is my take. And the reason I say that is he'll have more power there. He'll be in Joe Biden's ear. As president, what did Joe Biden get? A 2-day honeymoon, a 1-day honeymoon, a 6-hour honeymoon?
Some people are already blaming him. It's saying that the economy has gone down under him. 9 days.
Well, that's just it. But here, as Biden says, the time started to pick up Bidenism. And here's the thing now. The point is that Seller said it, and we're living with it, Brian. We're living with two realities. It's that simple. And there's even offshoots within the realities.
Well, we can't have three. You would agree with me. You can't have three realities, or you're done. You've got to have two realities. You can't
even have two. You got to have one.
Well, that's true. I mean, I'm saying as far as right now.
I'm not. Well, it depends.
No, look. I don't want to get this. You're right. You can only have one reality. There's only one true thing. Right.
We don't know what it is. We come to it with our eyes, with our heart, with our background, with our DNA, and we look at it. 74 million Americans said they looked at the reality and they said, Donald Trump's doing a great job, bring him back. 80 million Americans looked at that same reality and said, Well, that still leaves that third reality that they believe that they don't need to be involved in politics. So there are three realities. There are. Okay, now the next one is, within those, they're separate. There's an extreme left reality, and then Joe Biden is a moderate, but he's more liberal than he is conservative as a moderate, right? So what happens is this: the people who want Bernie are not going to accept Joe necessarily. I don't think
Bernie wants Joe. Bernie likes what Joe's doing.
I understand, because Bernie's not stupid. Bernie knows. Okay, HLS. I got a question for you, bro. Here we go. No, Brian, let me take this one.
No, I'm going to let you.
No, HLS. How are you going to be like Donald Trump and say the fix was in? Or did Bernie lose? Now, I will give you this. The fix was in with the superdelegates, okay? That fix was in. The fix was in that the Clintons had power, and it was almost like giving it to Hillary. But, Bernie didn't win. What are you going to say? Bernie didn't win. I was for him in 2016. I'm still for his ideas. But here's what happens with Bernie. Notice, Brian, the conservatives label anything that they don't like socialist, right?
Correct.
That's why Trump won in Florida, and we can get to that later. It's about Fox News, but Fox News reports this. So every night on Fox News, they're labeling anything to the left of them,
right,
as socialism. Now I want to take it back to Hitler. Americans are interesting cats, if you will, interesting characters. They're so friggin' afraid of socialism because somehow they got Nazism associated with socialism, social democracies. They've just got this thing confused. And what they're not seeing is Hitler, yes, but he was a fascist, and he was an authoritarian, which is what Donald Trump wants to be. So Americans are just confused, but you hear that word socialism. I mean, I got called a socialist so much, and I like socialism. I think it's got merit. The problem is, kids, and I'm not insulting you by calling you kids. I'm just saying. The problem is all governments suck. And you know why all governments suck? Because they're run by human beings. And human beings have failings. And they just get off the wrong track, even if they have the right reasons going in.
Yeah, but Dave, these people who just throw those words out there, even I think many of them even know that it's not even true because they just want to irritate. And at that point, I don't even want to listen to these. I want to just call them a pedophile, a rapist. You're going to say shit like you are a communist, you're a socialist. They don't even know me, so I say, okay, you like to rape 4-year-old boys. You are a pedophile. And they say, how can you talk like that? Well, because if you can say any shit like that, then I can say shit like that.
The problem is, Brian, and I agree, it's hard not to do. I'm going to take Mr. Biden's tact here. It doesn't get us anywhere. Now, if you are worried, I'm speaking to everyone tonight, if you are worried that Joe Biden...
Here's where I want to stop you. You hear what you just said. You said it doesn't get us anywhere. I think there'd be one value for the people who either need to have that straw to jump over. So, for example, let's suppose I call somebody a pedophile. And they're not, of course, but I'm going to do it just because they call me a communist. I'm going to call them a pedophile. I'm going to say, you know what? I think you look like the kind of person, not you, but I'll say someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think you rape 4-year-old boys, right? So I say that. The audience watching says, shit, I actually get what he's doing now. He knows it's bullshit, but he's saying, if you can bring this shit up and just say anything, and that way they realize.
Okay.
And they have to take it, and they won't like it too. They won't like it at all.
Brian, my friend, you're back on this revenge kick. It's just quiet for a minute and listen and learn, son. It's not about revenge. It's about winning. It's about winning.
I think it's all part of it.
Now, Biden's pretty right wing in the past, the 94 crime bill. You know what, Veg? I got to say this. When I was a teenager, I used to really play with myself more than I do now. So I could have been a masturbator, and it turned out I found girls. So if you took pictures of me back when I was about 13, it looked like I was a pervert, pulling my pud there. My point is, people change. Damn it.
Or evolve. They evolve. They evolve.
No, they actually can change. Okay. Now, I'm not saying Biden will, but listen to this, Veg. Here's the thing. Is Biden a flaming liberal? Yes. You know why? Compared to Donald Trump, he's a flaming liberal. Okay. Is Joe Biden a decent man? Compared to Donald Trump, Adolf Hitler would be in competition for decency. Right? Chad, you're absolutely right. Okay. So I'm not saying it's a panacea. All right. But I'm saying if you are a liberal or if you are a moderate, you are better off having Joe Biden as president. If you're a left-wing radical, you're better off.
Right. Would you rather have stage 4 cancer, stage 1 cancer? It's obvious.
Exactly. Okay. And it's fine. I mean, I'm not, anybody can have any.
I think that's the problem with idealism. And then we all have portions. It's that you say, oh, nothing. It's just not the way the world works. It's not the way it works. Dave, I just want to push ahead if you don't mind. I want to play because I want to get back to the original premise about Fox. Now I'm going to show you a pic with, a clip with John Roberts, who used to be.
He got something to do with the judges, doesn't he, or something like that?
Yeah. Well, he's also John Roberts from. Is it John Roberts? I guess it's John Roberts from Fox. It's a 3-minute clip, but what I thought out of this one, it seems to me in this clip, and this is on I believe it is on the 5th, and or at least in the morning of the 6th. I'll have to check. You'll see.
So this is what you're saying. This is prior to the.
This is prior to the Capitol revolt.
Prior to the domestic terrorist.
Not only say revolt, because we'll get into
takeover.
Because there's other things in another clip we'll get to. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but what I'm trying to say is, you listen to this carefully and tell me if you think that in essence, Fox was putting Mike Pence's life in danger. Not that I really care about Mike Pence, but let's just listen to it and see.
Okay, let's hear it. Sure, Brian, let it play.
Okay. Get the volume up.
Can't hear it, Brian.
Hold it. Folks, real quick, can you hear that, folks at home? Hold it. I'll get it. Hold it. I'm going to do that again. I will get that just in case. Hold on.
North Lawn was the president
Can you hear now, Dave?
challenged by
Yes.
Republicans on the Hill. John, good morning.
Bill, good morning to you. Passions running high in Washington, D.C. on both sides. No question about that. That Save America March rally on the ellipse south of the White House will be getting underway very shortly. The president, as you mentioned, expected to speak at 11 o'clock this morning. That rally sending a message to Congress as it considers certifying the Electoral College vote back on December the 14th. The person who will be presiding over the proceedings in Congress is Vice President Mike Pence. He'll be fielding any challenges to the electoral count vote and referring them to the House and the Senate. And the president making it clear what he expects from Mike Pence, tweeting this morning, quote, states want to correct their votes, which they now know were based on irregularities and fraud plus corrupt process, never received legislative approval. All Mike Pence has to do is send them back to the states and we win. Do it, Mike. This is a time for extreme courage. President Trump and many Trump supporters believe the vice president has the authority to unilaterally accept or reject slates of electors that are presented to him, but the vice president does not have that authority under the Electoral Count Act to unilaterally accept or deny slates of electors that have been certified and signed by a state governor. The New York Times reports that at lunch yesterday, Pence told the president as much, prompting the president to put out this statement via his campaign. The New York Times report regarding comments Vice President Pence supposedly made to me today is fake news. He never said that. The vice president and I are in total agreement that the vice president has the power to act. Our vice president has several options under the U.S. Constitution. He can decertify the results or send them back to the states for change in certification. He can also decertify the illegal and corrupt results and send them to the House of Representatives for the one vote, one state tabulation. Now, challengers are likely to point to two historic examples of a vice president acting unilaterally. In 1801, when he was presiding over the electoral vote count, Thomas Jefferson passed on the electoral votes from the state of Georgia, despite the fact that there was a defect in the ballot. There was a missing page, but no one disputed the fact that Jefferson had won Georgia over.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Break it down.
Right there. So basically what I'm saying is, here they start off one way, then they went the other, and then they went back again. And that, now I do see that was in the morning of the 6th. So basically they were saying that, we're fielding Trump's tweet. It's Mike Pence can do this. Then they say, no, he can't. And then they just give a slew of this. And this is right before that rally.
Brian, stop. There's truth and there's falsehood. Do you agree? Something true cannot be false, and something false cannot be true.
Correct.
And if something's true, it can't be false. And if something's false, it can't be true. Do you agree?
Yes.
All right. So here's the Constitution. Mike Pence couldn't have done anything. Anybody who thinks differently, read the Constitution.
Right.
It says no can do. Now,
he couldn't do it differently. However, again, we're talking about with Fox News, the perception would be that he can.
And you know why that perception is there? Who said he could? The most notorious liar in America today. Who said he could?
Donald Trump.
There you are. There you are. Now, I made a charge before, and I'm going to let it. You got to find somebody to believe in. Something. You can't believe in yourself. We're not right all the time, right? We're not out there all the time. So you can reject that, but so many people, Brian, whether it's Fox News, OAN, whatever, but they don't believe the president. Okay. They don't believe the president. They use the president for their own nefarious purposes. All right. Rupert uses him to make money. Sean uses him to prop up his ratings. Trump plays on people, they all use it. I mean, it's like, where's the truth? Okay, where's the truth? Well, I can tell you where the truth is in that story. Rudy, if you're going to follow somebody, Riddle, I'm sorry, I said Rudy. Riddle, if you're going to follow somebody, do scientists. Okay, science is the closest to truth that we have. There is a problem with science. Even there, some scientists don't agree. So sometimes, even there, when they dispute it, you got to find it. Again, we don't get too far away from Fox News. So Brian, I want to give you, that'll continue our discussion, the Pew Report, which is non-political. It's just a survey, comes out. Everybody's heard of it. Here were their 5 findings recently about Fox. You ready? 4 in 10 viewers in nation who watch TV trust Fox News. That means 4 out of 10 are being conned daily. 60% of those identifying as Republicans trust Fox. So obviously there's a link between Fox News, Trump, lies, and Republicans. Now here's no surprise, but of course they have to put this in. The average viewer of Fox is to the right on both political and social views to that of the majority of the nation. Okay? Brian, I can't hear you. Brian, I can't hear you. Still can't hear you, Brian. I don't think you just said shit.
Shit, no.
All
Whatever.
right.
Hopefully you can hear me now. But what I'm saying is that 80% of those 60% have guns of the Republican Party.
Brian, stop. Do the facts. I'm echoing Brian. No more clips, Brian. You can't bring
No,
them
it's
back.
not the
I'm
clips. It's not the clip. This is nothing. It has nothing to do with the clip.
All right, here we go. So just listen, Brian. The typical viewer is age 65 or older and white. Now, I don't know too many 80-year-olds I'm scared of, even if they got a gun. Okay. I mean, so yeah, again, you're feeding kind of into that myth. Yes, but they're not necessarily Fox viewers, right? I'm not saying we just think everybody has guns. And a lot of people do. I want to come back to that, Veg. I think that's great. Also, and this one, here's the scary one, Brian. The 5th finding. When it comes to Donald Trump, 85% of Fox viewers see him favorably. Okay. With Nancy Pelosi, 80% see her unfavorably. There's your divide. It's not going away.
But isn't that really a divide with strong women? They just don't like strong. They don't like Hillary. They don't like anybody. They don't like Janet Reno.
Well,
they don't like any woman who's female who's strong.
Well, of course they don't. But I mean, I don't know. Do they like Joe Biden any better? He's not a strong woman. I don't have those facts. I'm asking. I mean, I'm not.
No,
I'm not
saying I think that they have a lot more of a problem with Hillary and with Nancy Pelosi. Look, they want to put a bullet through their heads.
They also, well, Brian, I'm going to go to the other side. They also want to hang the Vice President of the United States. Is he
right? Well, that's my
woman?
point. Because but you see that I think they got put into a frenzy because that was Trump's fault. Ordinarily, a week before, they weren't ready to do it. They've always wanted to put a bullet in their heads. In Pelosi's
let's you did something. It's a little bit off Fox News, but it's still germane.
Because this. I'll tell you why they did that. I think the reason why they were ready to hang Mike Pence is because they were thrown into some type of frenzy. It was the moment they had to do what they had. He had to do what they wanted him to do at that moment. Otherwise, they lose their king.
You're missing a key point. Yes, they wanted him to do it. Who told them he could do it?
Trump.
Right. Their leader told them. So yes, they didn't want to kill Mike Pence until they thought Mike Pence wasn't following the leader that they love who speaks for them. So the point is, bro, I want to get that gun thing though. I'm tired of that gun thing all the time. Yes. Too many guns, etc.
Oh, by the way, can I just add this in anecdotally?
Sure.
Let me just tell you, down your street, okay, a couple houses down.
You're talking about my old neighborhood. Yeah, okay.
Somebody had a pickup truck, and on the back, painted in red, it said, "No justice, no peace." Now, I've never seen that here in that neighborhood.
Well,
now that was not from Black Lives Matter either, okay? You know what I'm saying?
I know. Now, here's the thing, brother.
You did hear what I just said, though. No justice. You know what that means.
I heard.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, there are people that have guns. Not everybody has a gun is going to come out and kill everybody else. Okay, they're not. It's not going to happen.
Not in the current situation, but if they're thrown to a frenzy, they might. They did it. Look, didn't they go to Governor Whitmer's, Gretchen Whitmer's office in?
And did it work, Brian?
I don't want to find out when it does. It almost worked at the Capitol, Dave. A policeman lost his life. 2 policemen lost their lives.
Brian, fine. I'm not saying I'm not
fine.
giving him. I'm not giving. That was the most fucked up takeover of a Capitol. They walked out after shitting on the floor, peeing and taking selfies, and said we won. And the legislators went right back in and kicked their ass and didn't win. And they didn't win jack shit. What they won is a free trip to federal prison. That's what they want.
And I want them there.
Well, I know we want them there. Okay. My point is, with all those guns, they didn't use them. They use them for intimidation. They use them for intimidation. Now, some will use them. Okay. Some will. All right. But you tell me, you tell me, do you really think those people that they're describing as ex-military were part of the Navy SEALs or Special Black Ops? They were people who learned, used a gun and now got fat. That's really what they are. And they're playing at being soldiers. They're the best. They're training them.
Well, I'm sure there are some out there that aren't fat.
Of course there are. Of course there are. But I just get this feeling that, oh my God, they've all got guns. Oh no.
Dave, do you want to handle this one as we do? Because I think it's a good question that Chad asked. You've answered this to me before, but I'm going to let you take it away there.
All right, I think I'm a good example of that, Chad. And of course, we know one another. So I'll just give you my backstory real quickly, because I think it's pretty common, or for people. My father came from Texas, a long line of hunters, Western desperados, gunslingers, et cetera, et cetera. And so he wanted me, as his son, as his only son, his only child, to learn to shoot. And so I said, sure. I'd watched enough riflemen to think that's pretty cool. And I still remember, it's one of my most vivid, it's a vivid memory, not one of my most. So he, gave me his lessons in safety, and we went out, we had big property, and he set up the bottles, and I fired my first shot with a .22 and hit the bottle. Now, I'm not putting my father down for this, because Lord knows he followed me in a lot of baseball games where I didn't do that well. But I think that might have been the happiest moment, right? So I could have easily fallen into that, but just something said, I don't want a gun. And I think that's kind of more of a leftist feeling. I don't want a gun. I don't think I need a gun. I really don't. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm crazy. But I don't want a gun. And here's why not. Do you know, Brian, statistically, more people get shot with their own guns, or loved ones get shot with guns, than are ever used to save people. Another thing, I always think about this about Columbine. Not Columbine. It was out in the same area. When they did the theater shootings, remember that one? It was big. They walked into a theater and opened fire. And I'm thinking,
the Aurora,
okay,
or something like that?
Yeah, Aurora. Yeah, I'm thinking, okay, I got a gun. I'm going to shoot everybody or nobody, or who am I going to know? I mean, I just don't see it. So I think basically why liberals don't have guns. I think they're sensible. If you tell me, if you can give me an honest answer, and not me, Brian, but anybody can give me an honest answer why anybody would need a gun in America. I don't want to hear self-defense because I don't buy that. But why they would need a gun for anything other than hunting, if they choose to hunt, which is great, or target shooting, if they do that. And even if they want a gun to defend themselves, that's fine. I wouldn't have one. There's also been cases where a house had a gun and the assailants come in and they don't have a gun, and guess who gets the gun? They get the gun, So guns to me are just guns to me. I've read the Second Amendment. I know the Second Amendment. I want to do a show on the Second Amendment. And the Second Amendment does not give the rights to unlimited guns. It does not.
And wouldn't you guess, Dave, that just in general, educated people don't have this, drive to go down to the shooting range, or the drive to buy weaponry?
Well, no, I met some people. Look,
I know there are exceptions to the rule, but I've never had a desire to purchase a firearm.
It was fascinating, Brian, in Bridgeton. I don't think you knew this. I've never told you this. what is it now? I don't even know what it is now. Where the YMCA used to be. It's where one of the places we would play basketball all the time. And they actually had a shooting range in the YMCA, right? And you could go down there and shoot. So I think, but this idea, I mean, okay, I'm asking myself this. In this botched coup takeover that was really like, it was pretty much like the Three Stooges capture Congress. Where were all these organized gunmen? You're going to tell me they only had 2 bombs and they were planted a day before outside? People were picked up with Molotov cocktails. Why didn't they throw them? So if what you want to say, Brian, the potential, I mean, we're so lucky. We're so fortunate that there wasn't more death.
Well, I don't
and we've
want
all
one.
said,
Look, I don't like guns. My father didn't like guns. My grand. Anyway, Dave, I want to push on. But this next clip, Dave, is also going to be short. It is going to be when the protest started, and I don't mean protest, when the riot started. But I want to say this, and this happened to me at 3:00 on the 6th. I'll remember that day forever. I know I will, because I was really upset with a colleague of mine, a couple of them actually. And I say this, I think you have to look at people, how they reacted to the riot at the time they saw it, rather than without any help or any encouragement from the media, like, oh, look what's going on. No, you have to be able to look at it for yourself, and you draw some type of conclusion if you can. Like, when I looked at that, I knew immediately who those people were. I knew they came from the rally. I knew they had Trump flags. I knew they were going to get violent. I just knew it was them. I knew it was not Antifa. And there was nothing to guess. Now, I'm going to show you a clip where it's just starting to happen. I want you to listen to the phraseology, because this goes to show you.
Now, who's going to be speaking?
This is going to be Fox. There's a female reporter. I don't know her name. Doesn't matter,
okay,
but it is Fox.
Okay.
And
go ahead. Just
listen how
put it
she
on.
turns.
Put it on.
Got it. Okay,
put it
here
on.
we go. Here we go. Make sure this is ready. Here we go.
Hello there, ladies.
Not this.
Doing the laundry blows, am I right? Unless you have a 50-inch...
Martha McCallum from Additional...
What the hell was that? 50-inch what?
Same thing. Hearing these reports that there's tear gas being used in the rotunda, as Brett has just reported. The members are being told to get those gas masks that are under their seats. The other big question is, where is the vice president? We're told that he was rushed out of the chamber, and this answers the question that I raised before. I was under the assumption that they would be safe in the chamber. That was before we realized that people had actually breached the building and were walking through the rotunda. Obviously, this is a huge victory for these protesters. They have disrupted the system in an enormous way. And I just want to, remind everyone.
You'll check that one. That's the first thing you hear from that. A tremendous victory. You hear that, okay?
What happened
I heard
this
it.
week, right?
Keep going.
People going to Josh Hawley's house. We've seen spray paint on Mitch McConnell's door, on Nancy Pelosi's door as well. And we've all been sort of tracking the escalation of this. Now, look at what you've got now. You have protesters inside the Capitol building in quite an incredible act that I think you could, revolt is a word that can be used here in some ways.
I just want to jump in here
on the stairs. Yeah, right. Go ahead.
Yes, because Congressman Michael Waltz of Florida, he is inside on the House floor. He's on the phone with us now, Congressman.
Okay, I don't want to go any further with that, Dave, but just
Okay, so
the
what?
terminology they're using. They also mention, first of all, they called it a revolt.
You're making my head hurt. And Brian, why you're making my head hurt is you seem to be still in incredulous wonder how Fox News can do this.
No, what I'm trying to say is
I'm
a
not
pattern
here
with
to say
this.
it,
There's a pattern with what they do. They're number one, they're not careful. But this is part of the reason why these kind of things happen, because they're the ones. It's not just these crazy MFers that are out there in the Republican Party. This thing is working in tandem. And
Yes, Brian.
when people see this, now the first thing we mentioned the word revolt. First, it's not a revolt. That's a goddamn riot. A revolt seems something, a legitimate grievance there. Like Black Lives Matter did have a legitimate grievance.
Brian, listen. If you're going to live in an alternate reality, and I accept that they do, it's a revolt for them. That doesn't justify it. It doesn't have empathy or anything for it. So if Fox News is going to represent them and drive them, of course they're going to call it a revolt.
But a news service can make the choice. I mean, not everybody on Fox News would do that. When you have the 2 to 3 hour, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. slot, there's some people who wouldn't do that.
No.
They took liberty with their language.
Au contraire, my friend. Chris Hayes took on, they fired the news director journalist who'd been there forever, who called Arizona. All he did was call Arizona correctly early. He was fired for that, fired for tons. And Chris just said, and he started saying, well, I've been a journalist all my life, and bullshit. If you work for Fox, you're a whore. Okay? I don't want to hear, I'm in there to, I don't want to hear anybody's good there. They're not. It's just like working in the Trump administration. Unless you can demonstrate to me you were there giving him the wrong nuclear codes every day, then I'll say you were here.
Well, what I'm saying is that I think you and I are both agreeing that they wield a certain amount of power and they are culpable in this situation. But what I'm saying is if we're going to deal with, a divided country, which we do have, part of the struggle, because remember, you have to struggle like with Stacey Abrams, with the vote, somewhere along with the media. There's going to have to be
who's giving the media a free pass, Brian?
No, I'm saying that Stelter did do a good thing. What he did there, okay? Remember I told you there's these unwritten rules, you don't go after them. I think at some point they're going to have to do that. And some of these ones,
they do it every day, Brian.
This was not going on for many years. Now they're doing it. Yes, MSNBC does it. They do it. Okay.
So does CNN.
Well, now they do. Now they do because they have to.
Brian, I want to make it really clear.
They should make it, when any individual does it, they should make it personal.
Here's the thing. I want to make it really clear. There is no delivery of news and never has been a complete delivery of news on television since Walter Cronkite and that crew stepped down.
This one, I want to stop right now. Human, that was actually in Snopes, and they disproved that they didn't have to be. They don't have to say entertainment or news. So that was actually, if you look it up on Snopes, not true. They can do what they're doing.
Well, the other thing is that people. Well, I think I would take the point that Human was that. Yeah, it was Human, right? That was.
Yeah, well, I know Ryan said it too. I mean, I brought this up last week, and I'm not trying to be contrarian. It's just that.
No. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Words matter, and words should mean something. Okay. Now, I'm not an expert, but I worked in news for a decade and have followed it and been tangentially involved and been a writer ever since and worked at the museum. Now, news is this, very simply: who, what, when, and where. Sometimes how, but when you get to why, you're left for other people to explain it. Okay, the hows and the whys are very different. Now, the TV has moved beyond that in the fact that also they need the sound bites. I would like people to try this sometime for me. Just try it for me sometime. Try an experiment. We got good people out there. I want you to take a major newspaper by size, and of course they're getting smaller. When I say major, New York Times, any big city newspaper. I'm echoing, Brian.
You're good.
Am I echoing now? No. All right. So, and I want you to sit down and read everything in there, not the ads and not the comics, but all the writing, and just time yourself how long it took. And then watch an hour-long news show. And I want you to count up the number of stories that they have versus the number of stories you encountered. Now, I'm not old-fashioned, I don't think. It's just true. A newspaper has more news than television or radio. And it's more clearly identified. as editorial and opinion and news and commentary. Although I'm not going to concede this. Certainly today, if some of the old time news people, when I say old time, I mean modern old time, they would be horrified with the commentary going on in the news stories. That's part of what it is today, but that's ratings. Brian, I want to do something real quickly here, if I may. I jotted down 10 things, and I just want you to respond to them. You ready?
Got it.
My take on what's wrong with Fox News. Ready? So I'm going to accuse Rupert Murdoch of caring more about money and power than he does the truth. Do you agree or disagree?
Agree.
Okay. Roger Ailes, a Republican extension of the Republican Party and right-wing propaganda machine. He's the one who put that in. It was clear.
True.
Okay. Should a news organization be associated with one party only and put down another party? Should a news organization do that? Or should they try to represent somewhat fairly both parties?
Oh,
right?
fairly, yes, fairly, but not.
Yeah, no, they don't, though. I'm saying you
right.
shouldn't be just involved with one.
Right.
Fox News is Republican.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what Republican it is. They'll be Trumpian Republican. They were Romney Republican. They'd be McCain Republican. They'd be Sarah Palin Republican. They'll be Marjorie Taylor Greene Republican. They'll be Josh Hawley. It doesn't matter.
They'll be fascists if they have to be.
It doesn't matter. They're Republican.
They're fascists.
Now, what does a news organization, a news network need? They need an audience, and the audience is tied into ratings. Ratings are everything, Brian. Everything. And what Fox News decided to do, and it was badly brilliant.
Easy for you to say.
Unscrupulously brilliant. They said, we're going to take out this chunk that really nobody wanted. Nobody wanted the old people, right? They wanted the young people, the 18 to 49 demographic. That was a desirable one. But what they realized was if we play and cater to them, we're going to get lots of numbers because they're not going to watch anything but us. How do they do this? Here's the ways they did it. Confrontation and vitriol. I will suggest to you the moment it happened on ABC News. It happened in 1968 when modern news became modern. ABC was dead last in the ratings. Who did CBS have? Walter Cronkite, the king. Who did NBC have? Huntley and Brinkley, the first team. You can't even name.
Was it Smith with the
later? But right, I mean, they rotated. They couldn't find anything, and so they said, "Well, what the hell? We don't have anything to lose." So it was the 1968 presidential convention, which was bad in a number of reasons, right? But here's what they did: they went out and got the most well-spoken, intelligent, but sneeringly had that snake thing going on with his tongue, William F. Buckley. And they paired him up with the biggest liberal at the time, Gore Vidal.
Yeah.
And they said, go at it. And we look, and those of us who like,
was it Howard K. Smith that was?
He was there at that point. Yeah. He was a nobody.
Should I pull that clip up for people to see or not?
What? No. No. What I want to say about that is this is before cult of personality, okay? Mm-hmm. So you had to have this. Cronkite had it established. Then, so there's only room for one top guy. Huntley Brinkley had the team, and so ABC did that. Guess who won the ratings? Started to come up. So that's the moment, and that brings me to my next point. Roger Ailes is watching that, and Roger Ailes, just because you're evil doesn't mean you can't be brilliant. He was brilliant in TV. He was the best there ever was, and he's looking. He says, "Okay, you know what sells? Confrontation and vitriol." Now, if you go back to Fox News, Brian. They didn't work. They started a little bit differently. Before Sean Hannity was on his own, do you know what Hannity was doing there? Do you remember?
At Fox?
At Fox, when he was first hired, he was not an anchorman on his own. I
have no
idea. He co-hosted a show just like you and I do. It was called Hannity and Combs.
Combs, I remember that. Okay, the one liberal and he was a conservative.
Combs was a liberal, and here's the thing: he was a liberal with as much oomph as Barney Fife.
Right, he was
just wishy-washy milquetoast. And so Hannity ran over him. That was a plan, right? But Fox sat back early and said, see? Now, do you know what the Fox motto is?
More cleavage.
We're getting that. That's coming up. No, it's fair and balanced. Now, they believe they are fair and balanced. Do you know why? They provide the fair and balanced to the left wing, everybody else. So in their alternate reality, they're there. So what a confrontation and vitriol does, you know what else sells, Brian? Big time anger. Anger sells. But you know what the problem with anger is? It leads to hate. So they stir up the anger gets engendered. So now network hate. Now, sex. I would urge everybody who has a free couple hours, it's not sexual, actually. It's there's very little sex on it. But Bombshell was just out. And that's Roger Ailes' downfall. It's fairly accurate from what I know and from what I've read. It's at the end, 20, I think it's interesting. What does Trump have? 26 allegations of sexual misconduct.
26,
Ailes
I think it's 27, but
27, and Ailes got fired with 23. So he never quite reached Trump's level. Looks like Ryan's ghost there while you're playing. Now, here's what's new, Brian. Here's what's new. And this is the ultimate that Ailes was able to put in along with Murdoch. Victimization. I hate to break this to everybody listening. Like, there's no goddamn war on Christmas. Never has been, never will be. But who's victimized? White people are victimized. Who tells them that? Fox News. Who's the biggest victim in the world? Donald Trump. Victimization is wonderful. So now you can feel good about it, Brian. You're watching Fox News. They're fighting the war on Christmas. God damn it, you're with them. The other thing about modern age, it's shot all to hell. Cult of personality. Think about this. Cult of personality can be used a lot of ways. Rob Portman, who it's like saying again, my common saying is, if you're the best Republican there, you're just the tallest pygmy. It's not much to get excited over. But Portman, as Republicans go, is a fairly decent guy. And he's not going to run. That's what decent Republicans, fairly decent Republicans do. They just drop out.
Yeah, that's what we're going to get to.
Coming up. That's what we're coming up. That's very good. And I want to get there. But you know me, human. If you're impatient, you can't stay with me because I'm impatient, but I know you got to have a lot of background because you want to do the right thing. So here's the answer we can't fight. This cult of personality, Brian. What the hell are you doing? Looks like you're playing with yourself. What are you doing? You keep looking down.
You can believe it or not. You want to really know what I was doing? Do you really want to know?
I really don't. I don't think the audience does either.
Well, some guy, a good friend of mine, made this silicone fake booger snot that I could play jokes on with kids. And I was thinking, well, maybe I'll do it today, but I won't do it because it's dirty. I didn't clean it off,
Okay, so what you're telling me is you're playing with dirty booger snot.
It's fake. It's silicone. You do it to kids in the class.
So are the breasts. So are the breasts on Fox News. They're silicone. Is that the tie-in?
Okay.
Here's what you got, Brian. You got the cult of personality, like I said.
Right.
Sean Hannity is a personality. Tucker Carlson, personality. Donald Trump, personality. Roger Ailes, personality. Kid Rock, personality. I mean, on that side. We have them too, though. Ted Nugent. But we have them too. If you want to win Ohio, I can guarantee you win in Ohio, the Democrats. You know who wins Ohio for them?
Hold on. Are you talking about which level? Presidential?
Okay. Portman is not going to run.
Right.
He's not going to run. And I will give you a candidate that I'll bet anybody on this show.
I know Jim,
he says he's not running. That's not true. He will run if the opening's there. He's just saying it now. But I'll tell you who would win. You want me to tell you? He's a native Ohioan. He would win handily.
Kasich?
Nope. A Democrat. Remember, I want a Democrat. I don't want any Republicans to win.
A Democrat from Ohio.
Who will win?
Well, I can only think, Voinovich or whatever his name, the left.
You're way off, Brian. You want me to help you out, bro?
Sure. But hold on. No, let me just think. There's another guy.
Go ahead. You're way off.
Who was the guy that was the mayor? Not Voinovich. I keep thinking the liberal. The Russian name. I don't know. I know who.
Who?
LeBron James.
There you are.
There you go.
There you are.
You give me time on that, right?
His name is circulating, and he would have that cult of personality necessary.
Chad just said it here. So.
Now he's our guy, right? I mean,
make
LeBron
sure
James.
I know damn well Brian Sipe would not be part of
I'll
that.
tell you who I wouldn't want to be. The other guy who's up for greatest of the game ever, Michael Jordan. Michael's changing a little bit. Michael, we got to give Michael a little bit. He was a child of the 80s. Okay. LeBron has done more good than probably 100 people. So you could do that. That facade of fairness Fox has. Oh, we're fair. We're balanced. And the most nefarious of all is they have figured out how, with these 65-year and older people, with giving them fear and anger and sex, those legs. That's what I said about Bombshell. They just keep saying, show me those legs, show me those legs, show me those. And apparently Ailes had a great fetish for legs. So, when you're that much powerful, you would do that. He was the one, he would send critiques out about how short the dresses should be, like a uniform. And look at Fox News. Not only, once in a while they'll have a brunette. They had what the Guilfoyle, Donnie Jr.'s
right.
Coke conspiracy. I think Donnie's on Coke. I mean, I hate to charge him on that. I know a lot about drugs. I'm a drug addict.
Elaine Maxwell, whatever her name is. So.
No, Guilfoyle. What is her name? The one who scared me at the Republican National Convention.
Her. Oh, my God.
And you know who she was married to? She was married to the Los Angeles mayor. I mean, you talk about a climber.
I thought it was maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was the governor from California. I thought it was him.
It was, that was. Okay. Not the governor, but anyway, now the governor.
Oh, she's a beast.
Yeah. But here's what they figured out to do. They figured out how to capture and then keep this audience. Now, let's get back. And Human, I'm going to answer yours, and I think that's the big question.
Blagojevich, yeah, he's a sick fuck.
We want to get to this.
That's one Democrat, okay. And he got pardoned by Trump. Jesus Christ.
Well, we know that. Look, here's the thing. What do you do about Fox News? Now, it's interesting. Washington Post, it's something they didn't have in my time, but things have changed much. Do you know? I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. I mean, you know a lot of things, but I think some things you're normal with. So you're playing every normal man. Do you know what a newspaper ombudsman is? It should
ombudsman. In fact, I was contacting an ombudsman to help me out with my mother's issues at the.
And what is that? What is an ombudsman?
Well, as far as I know, is the person that you go to.
You're right,
if you're just a local county person, you can go to that can help you out with certain things.
And what basically what a media ombudsman is, and I say it should be ombudsperson because a lot of them are women. They have a background in news, but they don't take sides. Like if you have a complaint, you send it to them. They'll kind of investigate it, and then write about it. And she's very, very good. And she took on, what are we going to do about Fox News? And it's the only thing you can do. You're going to have to figure out, you're not going to change their viewers.
Well, we do know, first of all, can we just say this? I don't want to jump too far ahead.
Go ahead.
We do know, all this at home and here, that we do have to do something. Can't just let it go.
Well, that's what we're getting. So what do? You go right back up. You have to look at ways to reduce their money and their power.
And you must expose them like you would expose a person who tells lies.
Brian, no.
Why not?
They don't. You're back to this. You've been doing this since May. When are you going to give it up?
Dominion shut some people up. Why can't we shut Fox up?
That wasn't about shame. That was about following through on the law.
I'm just saying they can, start suing. They look. Didn't they sue Lou Dobbs and Sean Hannity, and they had to make some deal with the courts? They, to not say anything. And they lost. They fucking lost.
That's fine. And you know what they did? That's pocket change for them. What you have to do is, how do they make their money? Advertisers. Okay. And so the place I would start, if I were going to go after Fox, is just get a list, and which is not hard to do. Watch for a week, jot down all the advertisers you find. Now, guess what? You're boycotting them isn't going to do jack shit. But you get 2 more people and 6 more people and 8 more people. That's one way. You do what you said, Brian. You find any way to file a lawsuit against them, that you can. All right. The problem is that for the right reasons, the press, it's very hard to file libel and slander charges, but that presupposed that people in the news and politicians would not libel and slander and lie every day. So part of this is, what are we going to do? It's all tied in together. What are you going to do about Trump? What are you going to do about elected Republicans? And what are you going to do about Fox? We have to get very intelligent people to figure out, because they are so intertwined. You pointed out, Brian. I mean, it's all one. It's all one. You have this right-wing, whatever it is, news conglomeration. And remember, Murdoch doesn't only own Fox News. He has the New York Post, the Wall Street Journal. He has, what else does he have? He has HarperCollins Publishing. I mean, he has all these things. Now, again, Republicans to blame. You know who allowed him to do that? Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan did two of the most horrible things to news ever happened. He signed away the Fairness Doctrine. Do you realize if the Fairness Doctrine were here, every time they said something in favor of some, there'd have to be somebody there, to say the other side. That kept news in. I don't know if you could ever get that back. And then he waived. His administration waived that you couldn't hold radio licenses, TV licenses, and run a newspaper. And that played it. You get Murdoch. He has, the New York Post is pretty damn powerful in New York. The Wall Street Journal is the second most influential paper in the country after the New York Times. So you do that, but you've got, okay, so let's start again. You've got that, Murdoch and the right-wing media. Then you've got Trump, and you have to look at then the political people from McConnell all the way down to right now, the worst congressman since in the 20th century, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene, that whole spectrum. Then you've got to go and look at, what are you going to do about the people who voted them into office, who then enabled Trump, and then da-da-da. So I can answer for the fourth group what we have to do. We all have to be like Stacey Abrams, mini Stacey Abrams. We got to find all the Democrats out there and do that. Charles Blow, New York Times. I don't know if you've read him, Brian. He's kind of like one of their leading.
I've seen him on MSNBC.
Yeah, he's one of their leading African-American. His new theory really makes a lot of sense. He said, if you really want to destroy racism in the South, now notice, he qualified it by the South. He said, Black Americans in position to pick up and go somewhere, whether they're retired, whatever situation they're in, or they could change they should move back, possibly, if they came from Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, Mississippi, wherever, and become active there. And that's a possibility, right? But it doesn't speak. The central states are becoming the new South in terms of social. And then you're never going to change. Who wants to go live in North Dakota, Idaho, South Dakota, even Nebraska, those kind of places. But at least you would do that. So there is a way. There's a way we can beat them there. Well, if we beat them there, right? If we can stop somehow them getting elected, then we move to the next step up. Well, that's stopping that step, right? If the enablers of Trump, and we're using Trump as an example of the main feature right now, then he can't get there. Well, if they're not there, even if Trump gets elected, he doesn't have the power of Senate and Congress. But maybe you can't elect him because it's going to be really hard in the future, much harder each 4 years to elect a Democrat, because Trump did change a lot of things. It's a new political calculus. And guess what? If there's no power, that takes away Murdoch's power. So if you're going to ask me tonight, what do? You start at, just like they say, build from the grassroots level in a political organization. I think you do the same thing here. I tell people, and I just tell people that are Trumpublicans, and I do want to make that distinction, as I always do every show. The Lincoln Project people are still Republican, but they're not Trumpublicans. Mitt Romney is still a Republican, but he's not a Trumpublican. We'll see who else joins him. I'm not giving them a pass. I'm just saying, yeah, they're the opposition, and I'm fine with them. But the ones who aren't, I try to tell them. I said, look, really, what it comes down to here, I don't like you. You don't like me. That's fine.
Right. Dave, but
guess what? One thing. I just want to finish this thought,
Okay.
Brian. Here's what it is. The thought is this: people ask what to do. Here's what you do. Just tell them, okay, but you're one vote, I'm one vote. You better be out hustling a second vote, because I'm going to find a vote. Your vote cancels mine. My vote cancels yours. And we'll see what happens. I'm going to try to get that next vote, so you better get them too. Go ahead, Brian.
Right. Dave, the next thing I want to do is I just want to go to one clip with Tucker Carlson. Look, we all know he's an asshole. I'm actually skipping a couple clips. I think we've kind of made the point already today. But this guy's got a special place for all of us, I think. He's such an asshole. So let's just...
Go ahead.
Let's just check this out. He's a duplicitous son of a bitch. And this is nothing new, but I think you still need to look at it, because this guy's a real danger to us. Here we go.
Of people protested and managed to push inside the state capitol.
The pro-union protesters inside the Capitol building.
This is America. We're allowed to disagree with what our leaders do however we like, and we're allowed to express that disagreement in public. That's our birthright. Yes, that's America. So with the left holding the democratic process hostage, what is next for Wisconsin? Sean Maddock participated.
All right, that's enough right there.
All right.
That's enough right there. You can see what's going on there. Okay. Just
what's the saddest thing tonight? If you could get the mask off of Hannity and get the mask off of Carlson, they're not half as right wing as they claim to be. And I want to read something from Seltzer book. It's on the cover. Sure. It's just a paragraph, and I think it's important. I would urge anyone who is interested in the topic we have tonight, which was Fox News, but you can't talk about Fox News without their role in elevating Donald Trump and Donald Trump's role in using Fox News. So it says, in Hoax, that's the name of his book, CNN anchor and chief media correspondent Brian Stelter tells the story of the twisted relationship between Donald Trump and Fox News. From the moment Trump glided down the golden escalator to announce his candidacy in the 2016 presidential campaign, to his acquittal on 2 articles of impeachment in early 2020. And I want to stop there just for a moment. Books can't come out immediately. So, of course, this book doesn't deal with the second impeachment, so that chapter still has to be written. We'll be dealing with that on the show soon. Fox hosts spread his lies and smeared his enemies. Over the course of 2 years, Stelter spoke with more than 250 current and former Fox insiders in an effort to understand the inner workings of Rupert Murdoch's multi-billion-dollar media empire. Some of the confessions are alarming. And here's the real Fox News. You ready? Quote, "We don't really believe all this stuff," a producer told me. "We just tell other people to believe it." One more thing I want to read tonight. This book, I'll tell you how old this book is, Brian. You can see it. And the print's really tiny.
Let's. I'm going to put you on solo there. Can you show that everybody that the
sure.
Okay, the selling of the presidency.
Joe McGinnis is, to me, one of the. He's if I had to pick 2 influences, one would be Joe McGinnis on my writing as far as a journalist. 3 actually. Joe McGinnis, Bob Greene. Bob Greene was eventually ended up as a 2020 correspondent, but then was fired and doesn't write anymore because he had sex with an underage girl. Joe McGinnis went nuts. But when Joe was still on, he was a young Inquirer reporter. And this is Roger Ailes in the beginning. So there are 2 books I think you should read. Hoax by Brian Stelter and this one. I said, Brian, how old it is. Let me see if you the print,
68.
look how yellowed and small it is, right?
You didn't drop that in your toilet, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Do you know how much this book cost? Today, I actually looked for it. Today, it is in paperback. It is $17.50.
Wow.
When I purchased it, it was $1.95.
There you go. $1.95.
I've read this book. I think 4 times, and I went through it the other night because I knew we were doing this show.
You could put it in your back pocket too. It's that small.
So here we go. Roger Ailes, the executive producer of the Mike Douglas Show. Now, you remember the Mike Douglas Show, right, Brian?
I know somebody's father played in the band.
Philly was there, was hired to produce the 1-hour programs. Ailes was 28 years old. He had started as a prop boy on the Douglas Show in 1965 and was running it within 3 years. Now, that tells you something about Ailes. I mean, even as a young man, he was moving up, but that's just the beginning. He was good, and he was. When he left, Douglas's ratings collapsed. Think about that. But not everyone he passed on his way remained his friend. Not even Douglas. Richard Nixon had been a guest on the show in the fall of 1967. While waiting to go on, he fell into a conversation with Roger Ailes. It's a shame a man has to use gimmicks like this to get elected, Nixon said. Television is not a gimmick, Ailes said. Richard Nixon liked that kind of thinking. He told Len Garment to hire the man. So think about these
by the way,
tie-ins.
Dave, I think the real reason that his ratings went down was he had that infamous day where we saw Mike Douglas sing "Bad Bad Leroy Brown."
That wasn't the brightest thing, but
I'm joking there.
I know.
I remember he sang that. It was
listen,
so bad.
I mean, this is why I get upset with people that don't follow history if they're trying to understand the present. Listen to these tie-ins, Brian. Ready? Joe McCarthy, 1950s, witch hunt.
Right.
Rose to power. Nobody would back him. Everybody was terrified of him. Very similar to what's going on today. Finally, finally, he pushed it too far. He attacked a friend of Dwight Eisenhower. Even Eisenhower wouldn't move on him. And he got his comeuppance. Well, his attorney was a gentleman by the name of Roy
Cohn.
Okay. Donald Trump was semi-raised by his father, who gave him a lot of bad advice. But guess who really became his father?
Roy Cohn.
So now Trump's now we get up here to Roger Ailes. He believed in television. He believed in the power of television, and he didn't have a very good moral compass. Okay. So he gets with Richard Nixon. Nixon, and Ailes is responsible for making Nixon human. Now think about this. If it had not been for television, Richard Nixon in 1960 would have been elected president, not John F. Kennedy. One of the things that people
look bad.
This is how bad television is for this. Nixon, left a lot to be desired, but he actually had an extremely heavy beard. He was one of those people, like, literally, if he didn't shave 3 times a day, I mean, it was that heavy, right? I mean, not growing out a beard, but he did. And he refused to wear makeup to that debate with Kennedy because he says it wasn't manly. Right? Now, the report was that Kennedy wore makeup. He didn't either. But he was probably our most ill president. I don't know if you realize this, Brian. He was administered the last rites 3 times in his life. Covered it up, just like FDR covered up his wrongness. But he was taking drugs, and he had a disease that made his skin turn not like Trump's orange, but looked very healthy. So on television, Kennedy young, vital, Nixon vampirish. But then he gets Ailes, and Ailes turns his whole image around and softens Richard Nixon's image. So what Fox News does is really nothing new. It's just been increased. Let's go back to the beginning of the show. The gentleman you had the clip up was talking about radio. I'm going to suggest there was another power. Guess what was new then? What was the new medium then? Movies also. Now, we know the movie capital of the world is where, Brian? Currently.
Well, Hollywood,
soon to be replaced by Bollywood, perhaps in India. But right now, still Hollywood.
In terms of art, the American art form is film. There's no doubt about it.
Well, yeah, but you know who had the art?
Still better than any place in the world.
Yes, but you know who had the best film in 1937?
Was that the one
Germany.
with
Germany. And so they were able, the Germans are the ones who were able to use film. And Hitler had a pretty good idea of how he would get directors to help him. He'd go to them, or not him, but he said, so you have two options. You can film for the Fuhrer, or we'll kill you on the spot. Which one would you like? And so it goes all the way back there. And the thing is, Brian, if anybody come up with an answer for this, I don't have it. It's all, unfortunately, all the mediums today are about cult of personality. If it's TV, radio, somebody asked today, I was at chat, I guess, whoever asked about why don't liberals have guns? I have a bigger challenge I've never quite figured out. So this is a challenge to the audience tonight. Why on radio, because talk radio preceded this, right? Why on talk radio did really no liberal talk stations ever take off? Ever. Whether you're talking about Sirius XM, whether you're talking about local, I have a couple of theories, but I mean, I think that's interesting. So you have radio is about a cult of voice personality.
Come on,
be
Uncle
ugly.
Dave, tell us the answer.
Well, I don't have an answer.
You don't?
I
think you did.
No, I think what it is, Brian, the best I can come up with. I
thought there was going to be like a line there. You're going to tell us, but you did.
No. Well, here's the best I can come up with. I'm not real sure. I'm working it out. I think, in all honesty, Brian, and this is damning to the human beings, we all talk about love, and happiness and peace.
Truth is more important.
And contentment. Nope. There's something not in the media. Anger and hate. Because that makes for better. It's all about the struggle. And so I think I'm echoing again.
Gotcha.
Okay. So what happens is, Brian, I think with right-wing radio, talk radio. I mean, look at this. Hannity got his start on talk radio. He was not TV personality first. Rush Limbaugh.
Michael Smerconish did that too.
Rush Limbaugh never really got to TV, fat fuck, because he wasn't, but he
couldn't fit his head in the screen.
It's still, he was a tremendous voice. So many of them, and some use that power. Now, Brian, I have a question for you as we begin to wind down.
By the way, can I just quickly say the person I was thinking about in Cleveland that could run, I was thinking of Dennis Kucinich. That's the guy I was thinking of.
No, LeBron will wipe the floor with him.
Now, yeah, absolutely.
No, I know. You were thinking politically, which is that.
I like Kucinich, though. He was a good guy.
I have a couple questions for you if you can focus. You seem to be having trouble.
No, I got like ADHD, so you have to just understand.
No, you were playing either with your pud or that snot booger or whatever.
I know you want one.
But here's the thing, Brian. Which would affect you more? Ready? Radio or television?
Would affect me as far as an emotional reaction to what it's being thrown at me? Absolutely, television.
Do you realize, though, there are people that it's not television, it's radio?
Well, I would imagine
the point is what you have to, what you do is you find out whether you're more manipulative on the radio or more manipulative on television, and that's where you go to where your power is. Now, here's the next one.
Well, also, don't forget Limbaugh. I mean, I know he does have like a TV feed, but because he's not a good-looking guy, I think it's better that he is on the radio.
That enters into it, okay? That enters into it. It's all about looks, a lot of it on television. Now, Brian, and you're answering for everybody. Okay, so we're going to put radio at the bottom for you, TV 6. Now, would you be more impacted with TV or the internet? The total package.
Because there's an international game to it, I'd say the internet.
Yeah, that's a young person. I mean, you're certainly not young, and neither am I. So again, it depends on who you're gonna be after. Somebody tonight, jokingly, I forget who it's kind of not that much, said they get their news from TikTok.
Right. Somebody did say that. We haven't had a lot of comments tonight, Dave, but They were good comments, but we haven't had a
No,
lot.
but right there, they were right. In fact, because that's
sleeping.
that's the going thing for young people right now. So if you're going to ask where do young people, it started out on started out on Facebook, moved down to YouTube, went to Snapchat, I went to Instagram, Snapchat. Now the youngest are with TikTok, and I'm sure my granddaughter gets some news from TikTok.
Rachel has a question.
And it doesn't depend on who your audience is. Yeah, Rich. But what the right is much better, I think, because Brian asked me, or we're kind of saying, why is the right and the left? The left really, they really do try to play it more fairly, and I think the reason is they probably have more morals.
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
and so I mean, you said no, we go do this. I mean, you bullshit. You're not going to do that. Because it's not going to allow you. You want to do it. You want to get in that Godzilla gorilla suit and go kill somebody. It's not you. Okay. It can't be done. Liberals don't do that. Conservatives, some of them all of them threaten to do it, and some of them actually do.
Right.
So yeah, Rachel's right about the audience. And that's the point I was trying to make. And what right wing with all the media, think about where they are. Okay. Last thing I'm going to read tonight, just a paragraph here.
Yeah, because we're running pretty close to the end.
Oh, I know. We're over. I know. But if you hadn't gone off.
Hey, listen, we essentially got on. We were here on. We were on at 2 minutes after, which is about as good as you can do.
Well, that's because you had to go home and wash your ass. You told me or something. I don't know.
What?
Here we go.
No, I had to take a shower. I didn't mention anything about washing ass.
This is from a guy who. How much money did we say has? 80. What I say? Hold on a second. I'll get it. His net worth as of tonight was $20.6 billion.
Who?
Rupert Murdoch.
Okay.
He owns two of the larger papers in the country. He owns the #1 news network up until this year. And he receives an award from Australia the other day. And I'm just going to read you two of his
Scott
quotes.
Morrison gave him it.
Here's what it was. For those of us, and think about who's saying it, and think about how we discuss Fox, and think about what Fox is. And I think Rupert might even believe this. For those of us in media, there's a real challenge to confront a wave of censorship that seeks to silence conversation, to stifle debate, and ultimately stop individuals and societies from realizing their potential. I think he described his own network, but of course he's describing everybody but his own network. And then this one is my favorite. This rigidly enforced conformity, aided and abetted by the so-called social media, is a straitjacket on sensibility, Murdoch added. Too many people have fought too hard in too many places for freedom of speech to be suppressed by this awful woke orthodoxy. Now, would you tell me, Brian, he's either a liar or something's really wrong with him? If you own all the media conglomerates he has, plus you're making a statement that's going to be reported in media all over the world, for you to believe that you're being stifled.
Right.
And there's your example of victimization.
And
Tucker said the same.
Stelter was talking about.
And that's what you're talking about.
Biden's trying to do this. He's weak, and then he's shoving it down.
Well, that was. But listen, freedom of speech. No, very few people know what the First Amendment says about freedom of speech. All it says is the government can do nothing to stifle your free speech. That's all it says. It doesn't mean that.
That's why it has nothing to do with Twitter. They can't stop Twitter from doing what they're doing.
Right.
They're going to try.
Now, here's the problem, though, Brian, and this is a good place to end. We'll pick up on this sometime. I'm going to submit to you that one of the biggest dangers today in America that leads to where we are is a misguided idea of freedom of speech. And just like there's so many second rights absolutists, right? You know, Second Amendment, shall not touch it, shall not mess with it. I used to be that way with the First Amendment, but I'm not so sure now because of this idea of Fox News is a weapon that poses a danger for democracy. Facebook, Twitter, simply by their numbers, pose a danger now. And they play games. Here's the last thing we'll say, because I want to jump on social media. So the segue is out of Fox. I mean, Fox isn't the only people doing. Facebook is horrific. It's horrible. It just is. And I love that. Oh, they're stifling conservatives. Someday we'll do a show on how much they stifle us, right? I mean, the types of things we're trying to do on our page. But Zuckerberg comes up with a great idea. Zuckerberg creates a Supreme Court, right, of people who supposedly know the constitutional law. Some journalists, he gets out there. Five cases have made their way to them, and they've overturned Facebook on all four of the five. Right. One, and this speaks to some of our readers who are on our Facebook page. And what happened to my quote? We know this is being done by AI, artificial intelligent computers, and the AI flagged and banned they're told not to show any breasts on Facebook. And so they banned an ad for breast cancer that showed a woman's breast. Intent gets to that. And people say, oh, Mark, great job. No. Mark just doesn't want to make decisions. He just wants to count his money. And that's the problem. And so I'm going to leave with that thought. You want to know what's wrong with Fox? You want to know what's wrong with Donald Trump? You want to know what's wrong with the Republican Party besides their philosophy and their spirituality and their ethics and their morals? It's their greed. Right. Greed is what's going to bring us down. Greed. Look, it's in Citizens United. It's in all of those named. And for those who believe erroneously, and if I'm proven wrong, I'm not going to say like that one guy said, if Trump isn't president, I'll eat my shoe. He hasn't eaten it yet. But I will say this. Joe Biden's call for unity is the best play he has right now. He's not going to follow through on it. He's not. And you're already beginning to see it. If that's what you're worried about, he's overturned what now? I think it's almost coming up on 100 Trump policies with executive orders. There's a way around it if you really want to get into the weeds. There's two Ollie. I don't know if you know this, Brian. There's two Ollie get in free cards that the Democrats hold with 51 votes. They can take any two things. Normally only get one, but because the budget wasn't done last year, they'll get two. They get one from last year, and those two you can't use a filibuster on. So they're looking to use it on the COVID, and they're looking to use it for infrastructure. So unity would be nice. It would be very, very nice. It's not going to happen. And this show tonight is a reason why. Fox doesn't want unity. Donald Trump doesn't want unity. No. Mitch McConnell doesn't want unity. Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't want unity.
Your neighbor doesn't want unity.
A former friend of mine who's still a politician, who last words he said to me is "fuck you, Dave."
Yeah.
And I said, well, I don't want that to be the last words. Fuck you, and named his name. A former friend who is now a QAnon member, they don't want unity. It can't be any unity. Chad, you're absolutely right. So here's the challenge. Same one it always was. How do we beat them? Because I can't live in an America where they control.
Right. Well said, Dave. Folks, I'd like to say some parting comments for Dave and I basically sign off for the night. And that is that we work very hard at this, and we're not monetized whatsoever. It's always been that way. However, we would appreciate if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube and you see, if you have the time to do this, please subscribe to the channel and share it with others. Same goes for being a member of our Facebook page. We're doing a good job getting more members, and we're getting the type of members who are like-minded, so that's really, really nice. We have some important things coming up. We know that Periscope is leaving, but I think from what I've heard that there'll be a very, very simple transition to Twitter. So you'll be able to see us on Twitter also. And of course, we're on Twitch. Now, Twitch is also a very big medium right now, but for gaming, but more and more people are starting to move to that. So we are on Twitch at Divided We Stand on Twitch. That's the entire name, Divided We Stand on Twitch. So that is our Twitch channel. But we realistically, David and I would like to see you on, at least watch the programming on YouTube, because it's a much clearer picture, better resolution. And then with the commentary, please go to our Facebook page. And we'd really, really appreciate it. Again, there's nothing in it for us except that we're trying to
well,
do
Brian,
something.
can I interrupt you for just a second? I was trying to say it quietly, but I mean, I understand this. We don't monetize and all that, but I have a little problem with that. They just released statistics, and I live in the 9th most expensive place in the country. Arlington, Virginia, where I live, has now been labeled the 9th most expensive. And I could go across the Potomac to Washington, D.C., but it's the 6th most expensive. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want any money from this page, but if you happen to find, I don't know, say $1.7, $1.8 million laying around and have no use for it, I would not. Brian would probably reject it or give it to some charity or save some kids. But I really do have a use for that.
I know you want to buy a houseboat, so somebody better buy him a boat
that's
quick.
true. And also remember, Brian, you go out and you mentioned your neighbor with the truck and the no justice,
Painted
no
in red.
peace.
It was like poor finger painting too.
Well, I have 2 neighbors. You probably heard of them. They're relatively famous. They're well, it's not their houses, but it's their office buildings, opposite sides of the street, on my well, not my block, the next block. One is called Michael Bloomberg, 78.1 billion as of tonight. I always check it every night, and it's a race between Elon Musk and my neighbor Jeff Bezos. Has the first Amazon building in my block. Or again, I lie. It's a little, so I guess it's technically the next block. But he's one of them is going to be the first $200 billion man. So really, I mean, I 1.7, 1.8 million from somebody, chicken feed, but it would really help.
Yeah, well,
so if anybody wants to give that to me, I'm fine.
Play the lottery for a few 100,000 years, maybe you'll get it. Just make sure you live long enough to do that.
Always fun, I think, but I do want to kind of warn people. It was pretty easy in a way when we were just fighting Trump. Now it gets a lot more complex. It gets a lot more deep. There's a lot of answers.
By the way, he's been very quiet, so that's
who?
Kind of ominous. I mean, Trump himself. You haven't
No, it's not. No, Brian, you're reading too much into it. He's quiet because he doesn't have his Twitter account. That's all.
All right. Well, I mentioned that to Ron today, but I said
it's true. He's doing all kinds of shit that he can do, and the one thing I will back him on this. I want this to happen. If it's the end of the world, I'll take the blame for it. Ivanka Trump has great political ambitions. She could also be an anchor on Fox because of her legs and her other attributes. But she wants to run, and there's a lot of talk she'll run for the Senate and in Florida. And if you do, Ivanka, if you're listening tonight, honey, if you and Jared are not doing whatever it is you do
I think she
on Saturday night, Ivanka, here's the thing, man, run. Because I think it would be the only case in my life where I would vote for a Trump over Marco Rubio. I really do think I would do that, simply because Marco Rubio is a bigger whore.
Asshole. Yeah, he's an asshole.
Swarmy, and at least Trumps are Trumps. They can't help themselves. Marco Rubio probably could.
Well, Dave,
Brian, I'll see you next week, man. I'm tired. I don't know about you.
Joey was causing problems at the end there, so I guess we'll end it at that. So, but Joey, we're glad you were on.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be evolving a little bit differently. Like tonight was a first attempt, really, at a one-subject show. But the problem is, Brian, too, and I don't know how we're going to resolve this. It's not a problem, but I want to have the show like doing this. But if comments are going to come from somewhere else, I want to be able. I mean, we're really out to please our audience too, not please them, but so. I don't want people to tune in thinking, oh my God, they'll never deviate. If you just want to comment on something else and it's political or it's germane, do it.
And if you want to come on too, folks,
oh, that would be great. Yeah.
I can it's easy as sending the link to you and you're ready. We got people from Australia coming on. They're waking up right now. So hi, Keith. How you doing? Good to see you.
Hey, Keith. Listen, Keith, my grandkids were on your side of Australia, and I want to say something. Just thank you, everybody over there. They both came back and they said it was the greatest vacation of their life. And, I think if you're not, friend me on Facebook. I posted, their mom hollers at me, but I posted a number of pictures. And my God, we got to get rid of this pandemic so I can get down to Australia. I love that place.
Well, Dave, I am going to have to sign off, and I will. Dave, I'm going to be signing straight off once the thing is done. So I won't be able. Usually, I talk with Dave afterwards, but I can't tonight, and I am really.
Why can't you, Brian? Let's
tell you exactly why.
depth.
Listen, I went to the Bay today, right, and my eyebrows under them, it was swollen. I don't know what was going on. I mean, it looked like my top of my forehead was going to cover.
Brian,
my wife says that she didn't see it, but I thought I saw it. So I took a Benadryl, and she said, "You're going to get tired," which I did get tired. If you notice, I yawned a few times. It wasn't that I was disinterested, but
no, Brian. Let me ask you something though before you sign off, because I'm worried about you won't be able to talk, and the audience might have. Say, are you sure this doesn't have? Is it just a delayed reaction from all those Russian hookers you had in those years you were over there? Are you sure?
I don't know where you get your information. You know Putin or something?
All right, let me ask you a question. Did you say yours? Did you have sex with Russian women while you were in Russia?
No comment.
There you go. I rest my case.
He's nuts. All right, folks. Support mental health. All right. I'll see you. Dave, I will see you. Oh, no, hold it. We're not going to finish yet because I do want to do the outro. And you can comment on the outro, folks. So thanks, Dave. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you.
Yeah.
D'un lion, il y a une jolie fille. D'un lion, il y a une jolie fille. Elle est jolie, parfaite en beauté, qu'elle a charmé. Elle a charmé le cœur d'un grenadier. Bon grenadier, amène-moi dans ta chambre. Bon grenadier, amène-moi dans ta chambre. Oui, dans ma chambre, je t'emmènerai et je te donnerai. Et je te donnerai le cœur d'un grenadier. Et l'autre amant qui est à la porte qui écoute. Et l'autre amant qui est à la porte qui écoute. Croisant ses bras, jetant la vue au ciel, se dit grand Dieu. Se dit grand Dieu que je suis malheureux. D'avoir aimé une aussi jolie fille, et à présent il faut l'abandonner. Oh oui, grand Dieu, grand Dieu, oh oui, grand Dieu, que je suis malheureux.